Good morning, my intellectual friends, and we're going to read another few paragraphs in the book Crisis of the Black Intellectual by W.D.WRIGHT. Now, now we're going to we're going to continue. We're going to start here in making this assessment, talking about Stokey. And indeed, in arguing about slave nationalism and African nationalism, Stuckey shows the reader how strongly he was influenced by black African history of the 1960s and 1970s. These were decades of independence efforts when the slogans African nationalism, African unity, and African independence were prominent. Throughout his work, Stuckey demonstrated how strongly he was influenced by the Afrocentric perspective, despite its crushing blow on the black-centric perspective that I regard as appropriate when talking about black slaves and black ethnicity. Stuckey was showing a strong romancing of the black nationalist tone. One thing should be made clear before I proceed. Africa is a continent, not a country. Therefore, the identity involved would be a national identity, but a continental identity. That means there could be no such thing as African nationality nor African nationalism, as it would have to be a nationalism related to country such as Guyana nationalism or Kenya nationalism. And clearly, African ethnicity is not the same as African nationality. Indeed, both are erroneous, ideological, and romantic expressions. Stokey's Afrocentrics and black nationalism orientation got in the way of studying black slavery in America. It prevented him from deeply plunging into it. As he saw it, he was studying Africans in America, even though black slaves saw how different they were from black Africans that were continuously being brought onto the plantations and slave farms. Now listen to this. We got a first-hand account, an eyewitness. An example of this awareness of difference has been recorded by a runaway slave, George Ball, B-A-L-L, who wrote in his autobiography or one of his slave autobiographical narratives. The native African was revengeful and unforgiving in their tempers, easily provoked, and cruel in their designs. They feel indignant at the servitude that is imposed upon them and only want power to inflict the most cruel retribution upon their oppressors. Ball further noted they were universally of the opinions, and this opinion is founded in their religion, that after death they shall return to their own country and rejoin their former companions and friends in some happy region. Ball's comments invoked ideas of we, they, us, and them, indigenous and foreigners, as well as black people, and black Africans slashing the ideal of Pan-African unity that Stokey said existed and was exhibited by black slaves. The following comment is from a former black slave that also invokes the idea of separation between indigenous black slaves and black Africans, and that implies that the black Africans had to become acculturated to a integrated into the indigenous black slave culture or black culture. This brief description took place in the years before the Civil War, when Ball had been a slave. The former black slave is quoted as saying, most of the time there were more than 300 slaves on the plantation. The oldest ones came right from Africa. My grandmother was one of them. A savage in African, a slave in America. The following three quotations taken from former antebellum slaves clearly show how the new blacks saw themselves as being different from the black Africans and could not envision any kind of unity between them as long as black Africans kept their original culture and psychological disposition. So that's kind of letting us see that it's always been some distinctions between blacks. And that's okay. I mean, we should not have to worry about that. Because it's nothing wrong with being with your kind or ones that y'all have a lot of common things in common, I mean. Wow. Oh, my eye is itching. Sorry about that. So, the following three... Wait a minute. The first quotation is a reference to the Gullhans, who black nationalists and Afrocentrics often point to when speaking of blacks in America being African. The person remarked it. Somebody give her the name old Beatty and to word her right name. Folks couldn't understand a word she said. It was some sort of gibberish they called Gullian talk, and it sounds that funny. Another ex-slave remarked, us all the time heard folks talking about voodoo, but my grandma was powerful religious, and her ma told us children voodoo was a no-count doing of the devil, and Christians were never to pay no attention. Us was to be happy in the Lord, and let voodoo and the devil alone. And the third ex-slave stated, we didn't have no conjure folks at our Whitney Acres. We all known about the word and the unseen Son of God, and we didn't put no stock in conjure. Of course, we had luck charms and good and bad signs, but no stock in conjure. But everybody got them things, even nowadays. Both of the black nationalists and the Afrocentrics seek to find the origins of black nationalism among black people in the black African slave trade and black slavery. They endeavor to do this not by providing historical evidence, because it cannot be done, as there's no evidence, but by romantic ideology and nostalgic or wishful thinking. Stuckey wrote that African nationalism and Pan-Africanism and what he called African ethnicity and African unity occurred during the slave trade and then carried on into slavery when he wrote, during the process of their becoming a single people, Yorubas, Akans, Aboas, and Angolians and others were present on slave ships to America and experienced a common horror, unearthly moans, and piercing shrieks, and smell of filth and stench of death, all during the violent rhythms and quiet chorusing of ships at sea. As such, slave ships were the first real incubators of slave unity across culture lines, cruelly revealing irreducible links from one ethnic group to the other, fostering resistance thousands of miles before the shores of the new land appeared on the horizon, before there was mentions of natural rights to North America. So, that was really something, wasn't it? You had all these different Africans. As we have established, Africa is a continent. You have different ethnic groups, tribal groups, different religions and traditions and blood. You know, you come from different lines of blood. And now here we have them being cattled into one place. And they have this one common feat. And that is the horrific conditions they are now faced with. So, and so we forget that. You know, we have forgot that, and we're not taking that and putting it in a positive light. Yes, we have differences. Yes, you may like this, but we can still have unity by not trying to degrade one another or put each other down because their ways may be different from ours. And that's what America has done. Religious have done. You take one black Jehovah's Witness and one black Christian, they are not going to, just on them two terms alone, they are not going to try to get along. So, that is a little bit more of that chapter, Romancing the Black Nationalist Stone. So we're going to read some more. I'm going to come back next time and read some more. It's a pretty long chapter, so we're looking at a lot of reading. All right. Thank you. Tune in to next time. Please subscribe and have a great day.